Hello, folks, and welcome to True Crime Phenomenon. Today, the phenom of the week is Scott Peterson. And Scott is best known for the murder of his wife, Lacey Peterson, and his son, Connor, who wasn't even born yet. All right, so in 2004, Scott Peterson was found guilty and sentenced to death for the murder of his wife, Lacey, and their son, Connor. He's currently an inmate at San Quentin Prison. Lacey was over 8 months pregnant, right? Super pregnant. Now, I'm going to go into some details of the case, and I got to be honest, I'm really surprised when you actually go through, you get the actual details of the case. It tells a much different story. Give you an example. There was more evidence for Casey Anthony than Scott Peterson to convict her, right? So it's kind of shocking. There's actually a comment made by a reporter says everything you think is true about this case is not. So everything that you learned in the media that was quote unquote true is actually not true, which is kind of shocking. And I don't agree with that statement completely, but I definitely think that there's a lot of evidence that would be considered reasonable doubt, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But you know, that's kind of when you start digging into the details, which I'll be going through. There's quite a bit of evidence that basically pokes holes in the state's story, right? So first off, this will be a 3 to 4 part series. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring in a third party to maybe interview them, see what they think about the facts of Scott Peterson. We'll see how it goes. But I just kind of wanted to start off with a brief overview of the case. And then we'll get down into the details, going through one by one, you know, what the different witnesses saw, what type of evidence there actually was, and what type of myths there are about the case that was put out in the media, what's true and what's not, right? So Lacey Peterson was born in 1975 to the parents of Sharon and Dennis. Sharon and Dennis met in high school. They owned a dairy farm in Escalon, California, which is kind of in the Modesto area, Central California. Okay, she has one brother who's older. Lacey worked on the farm and helped in the garden. So her mother actually describes her as being the child always in the dirt, right? Always in the dirt, always getting dirty, you know, very much played outside, okay? Now, Lacey was known for being this very cheerful, bubbly type personality. She was a beautiful girl, you know, just the cutest thing you've ever seen, right? Constantly working on the farm, helping in the garden, you know, just a wonderful kid, you know, kind of an ideal type child to have. Now, she was a cheerleader in junior high school and high school. And from there, she went to Cal Poly, which is in San Luis Obispo. And she majored in horticulture, which, you know, seems kind of fitting. Her parents owned a dairy farm in Escalon. And, you know, she's into horticulture. She's into dirt, always playing out there. Kind of reminds me of my daughter. She likes to play in the dirt and insects, bugs, and all that stuff that I don't. Okay. So she went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. And how she met Scott was from a friend. So Scott was working at a restaurant, and one of Lacey's friends worked at the restaurant too in Morro Bay. And Lacey was she was kind of the aggressor here, right? So Lacey made the first move and gave her phone number to Scott. You know, they started talking, and their first date was deep sea fishing, right? Which, you know, kind of makes sense because the prosecution makes this case that, you know, oh, you know, Scott bought this boat and Lacey knew nothing about it, which you'll find out later that on December 23rd, she went missing on December 24th. On December 23rd, 2002, Lacey had actually been to Scott's office, saw his boat, and used one of the neighboring offices' restrooms, right? Because Scott worked in fertilizer, selling fertilizer, which I'll get more into here in a moment. Okay, so like I said, she made the first move, gave Scott her phone numbers. They started talking. First date was deep sea fishing. Lacey got super sick out there, right? She got really sick, throwing up all over the place. So not necessarily the best first date, but you'll find out that this kind of nautical theme was a theme for their son Connor's room, right? Nautical theme. And, Scott was known for, loving the ocean and water. Really, he loved to be out on water. So initially, they opened a sports bar called The Shack, which was in San Luis Obispo. And, at first, the business wasn't doing so well, a little bit slow, and then eventually picked up, right? Just like any normal business, get more popular and more popular. So they own the bar called The Shack. And they eventually decide that they're going to move to Modesto, California, right? Which is kind of a fateful move. So they bought a house in October of 2000, a little 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom little cottage house. Nothing crazy, but a cute little house, right? Nice little house. I think they paid $177,000 for it, which at that time is quite a bit of money. Back in 2000, 177,000 was quite a bit. I remember the house I grew up in. I think the first house that I grew up in sold for like 120,000, which was a little 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom cottage in kind of the Placer County area, Sacramento County area in Sacramento, which is considered probably about on par with Modesto, maybe a little bit nicer. But yeah, so they bought the house, and then in April of 2001, they sold The Shack, right? They sold their business and committed fully to moving to Modesto because they wanted to have kids, right? They wanted to get married, they wanted to have kids, they wanted to do all these things, right? Excuse me, I have the virus, and I've been dealing with this for about 10 days, but anyways, feeling pretty good otherwise. Anyway, so Scott made a salary of about $60,000 a year, right? So about $5,000 a month before taxes. Now, if you know anything about California taxes, we have high taxes, but even still, that's a pretty decent salary, especially, 20 years ago. It's a decent livable wage, definitely something that they could have lived on. And Lacey was a substitute teacher. So you've got Lacey subbing part-time, you've got Scott, working, selling fertilizer for Trade Corp USA. It's a European fertilizer company. And, they're making a decent living. They're definitely not, I wouldn't say super wealthy by any means, but, they just sold their business. They just bought a house. Lacey gets pregnant, and they're really looking forward to building a family, right? So Lacey's due date was February 10th of 2003. And she goes missing on December 24th, so Christmas Eve, 2002. So she's 8 months pregnant, really, really pregnant. At least that's how the witnesses describe her, as super pregnant. Just kind of short and round. She's 5'4". Not a very big girl, 130, 140 pounds with all that belly, right? Now, both Scott and Lacey seem to be really, really excited about this pregnancy. And they just couldn't wait to have their child, okay? So, I mean, this is just, from the outside looking in, this is what people thought, okay? So anyways, like I said, she goes missing on December 24th of 2002. And, Lacey 8 months pregnant. And, this story kind of takes a trajectory. It's in the middle of 9/11, which was in, 2001. And the Iraq War, and you'll kind of find these two competing headlines. Now, this is in a time where our media is going to the 24-hour news cycle, okay? And one thing that the reporter outlines, the primary reporter. She says that there's 4 things that they're looking for in a big story, right? With people that are the main focus of the story, right? First thing is, are these people enviable, right? Are these people that everybody wants to be? You know, they could be famous, they could be wealthy, right? Which wealthy is the second part. Everybody's intrigued by wealth, whether or not these people are enviable, powerful, and then the fourth one is attractive. These make the ideal stories. And if you know anything about Scott and Lacey Peterson, they're definitely an attractive couple. Beautiful, you know, women just loved Scott. You know, Lacey was cute as a button. And they just really fit that narrative, that ideal story narrative. Now, December 24th, Scott had actually let the police in to do a search of his house, you know, come in, you know, right away, right after he found out everything as far as like, you know, she's missing, I don't know where she is. And one thing you're going to find out is there's literally 0 forensic evidence and physical evidence that points to Scott. 0, which is shocking to me, right? I mean, there's the anchors, there is, you know, where he happened to be boating that day, but, you know, they were just immediately suspicious of Scott. Now, whether it was for a good reason or for a bad reason, I just don't know. You know, the statistics say that the chances are that it's going to be the husband. Okay, always going to be the husband. You know, it's like a 90% chance. So they were right to look at him. Now, Scott had a receipt from where he went fishing that day, which I'm going to get into the timeline a little bit more, but I think this is important to show why they focused on Scott. So Scott had a receipt from the boat launch, right? And if you know anything about launching boats, you know that you have a little card and they usually staple a receipt to it, which they did, which you put on your dashboard. So you show that you're legally parked there. It seems like something you would definitely keep, right? You would definitely have there, okay, yes, got it, boom, right? And so they asked the police later, well, do you find that suspicious that he had that? And they said, yes. I mean, if he's going out there to dump the body in the bay, I mean, that just seems like a silly thing to keep. You know, you want to try and project that you're not there at all, right? And then he had stopped for gas on his way home, and he didn't have a receipt for the gas. And they asked the same detective, well, did it make you suspicious that he didn't have a receipt for that gas? And he said yes. So no matter what he did, it was suspicious. But I do understand why you would have a receipt for a boat launch and not a receipt to gas. I never, ever, 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 ever have kept receipts for gas. Never, ever, ever, ever have I. And I know it might sound silly to some people. Maybe some people do, but I just don't. I just don't, never have, never will. Don't really need them, you know. Well, there's all the online records you can do now, but I just don't need them. Right. So anyway, so the cops come in, they do a search of the home that night, and there's no evidence of murder inside the house. Right. Even there were stories of a bleach smell. Well, that turned out all to be false. There was never a bleach smell in the house. But if you watch TV, you would have to believe that. Now, another fact I'll get into the detail more about is a house across the street was burglarized. And it was originally believed on December 24th, the day Lacey went missing, was the day the house was burglarized. And the police came out later and said, no, it was actually December 26th. Well, the problem is there was a reporter outside of the house December 26th, which would have caught that burglar. So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that just doesn't make sense, doesn't add up, right? So there are 11 different witnesses that saw Lacey while Scott was on his computer at his office, right? So they got the computer records. Scott was on his computer. We'll go more into detail into that later, but Scott was on his computer at work at the very time where Lacey was seen by 11 different witnesses, right? 11 different witnesses, like 7 different sightings. So multiple people saw the same thing, saw, cute little round girl walking her dog. Okay, so we'll go more into detail on that. And as soon as we get into the timeline, because we're going to get in the timeline here real soon. But yeah, so no physical evidence, nothing really that points to Scott at this point. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for episode 1 of the either 3 or 4 part series, just kind of still determining whether or not I'm going to do 3 or 4 parts about the state versus Scott Peterson. I got most of this information online as well as from the A&E mini documentary series called The Murder of Lacey Peterson. Like I said, it's about the state versus Scott Peterson, and please like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, please, I'd love to hear what you think, because I'm going to get into a lot of granular detail here that outlines the facts of the case as they were presented. And, I've got to tell you, it's not what you think, or it wasn't what I thought. Let's put it that way. It wasn't what I thought. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Is he guilty? Is he innocent? Or is there reasonable doubt? Because I do believe in the jury system, and I believe that everybody has the right to a fair trial, right? Regardless of the circumstances. Scott deserves a fair trial, just like Casey Anthony deserved a fair trial. Sometimes I wonder if Scott had Jose Baez, would we even be having this conversation today? There's a media frenzy that wanted to lynch Scott. And it was just kind of sad, I think the thing that got people going so much about Scott was his character, right? Scott was just aloof. And if you watch the video of his dad, they're like carbon copies of each other. So you can see kind of how that comes in, and how his character is the way that he is, and why he doesn't have these big bombastic spaz outs like you would want him to. And I don't believe in the cliche that, everybody, kind of mourns differently. I don't believe that. And, the thing is, I don't think we've actually seen Scott mourn. I don't think we've seen the real mourning. So I'm not sure he's innocent, but I'm not sure that they proved their case either, I guess is the point I'm making. And I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, share. More will be coming. I'll be doing at least one of these a week. And this is True Crime Phenomenon, our Phenom of the Week, Scott Peterson. Did he do it or did he not? Let me know what you think down in the comments below.